I don't know where the trail goes now. Oh yeah, looks like it goes right through there. Awesome. Hello again. All you, let's see, all you, hear the turkeys? Oh, we gotta be quiet. Those damn turkeys, man, they hear everything. Hello again, all you escape chasers. Let's see, chainsaw, gas, and pine oil aroma lovers. And all of you nice folks that are looking to do work with the federal government. I'm trying not to fall on my ass here, but just so you know, doing work with the feds is not this big thing. If you do business now, you can do business with the feds. You just have to follow a few more rules and fill out a lot more paperwork. Hey buddy, I gotta fasten harness. This was nasty. Nasty, nasty. She's all clean now. In this episode, oh yeah, this episode is all about tasks and the specifications. So specifications are what's expected, the final product, what they're gonna accept, the inspectors are gonna accept. But before we get to all of that, I believe we actually finished part of the project management plan, which was a section of trail to be finished by a certain date. And so we accomplished that. So that was like we failed on the first section of trail, but it was a big thing. Like we got to put a 100% bar across this thing on our Gantt chart. So it was cool. Bear Pete.
Is that there the junction?
Bear Pete. 3 days, man. That's pretty good. 5 miles down to French Creek, Jenkins Crossing. If we went up here and you took a right, they'd take you into Bergdorf. Time for a drink. Where's our trusty trail guide? Me so happy. Time for lunch. We are just headed up for our 3rd week, 4th week, 5th week? I can't remember. It all runs together. I get home Friday, do laundry, sleep, buy supplies, and leave Sunday morning for the mountains again. It's kind of all runs together. Past Hazard and Upper Hazard, and then take a right, go up over the mountain, down into the next bottom, and then kind of halfway up the other mountain. The drives, the mobilization into camps 1 and 2 were really pretty simple. I was about a 20-minute drive off of the highway or paved road for both camps, and then only an hour from McCall. From those 2 camps, Camp 1 and 2, the rides in, that's funny now I look back. We thought, wow, this is challenging. And now it's just funny to look back and think that we thought that was nasty country to ride through. Because on the 3rd section, 3rd camp, I'm telling you what, I don't know, the camera never does it justice. But by the 3rd time you cross through a rock garden or across a creek or across a spring or something, you kind of know which line you don't want to take. So you have a pretty good idea what's gonna get you through safely, so to speak. Like I said, the camera never does it justice, but some of these sections are crazy steep. Like I would have to reroute my pack string if I had a pack string, and I know the camera doesn't show that, but there was 2 sections where I'm like, I'll tell you what, those areas, they pushed me back past my acceptable level of risk and left me there for another month and a half about. Okay, we are at our trailhead. Well, not our trailhead, this is a connector trail. I haven't walked down it yet, but it doesn't sound promising from the dirt bike riders that just went through. We're gonna get unloaded and then we're gonna set up our camp, do our brushing first. Maybe I'll capture the brushing. That might be exciting. Well, we got our camp set up. Man, we got a nice little blow and we got some blue sky finally. You can see the mountains over there. Ash all over everything all afternoon. And yay, now I can have a nice clean tent. A bite to eat, maybe some crackers, and then gonna go to bed. So we'll be up bright and early. Good morning. I could turn that off probably. She was hot all night. Like 5 o'clock. It got cold. Like it got cold. Head down the mountain. Now we're headed down the mountain to the creek. That's not awesome because at the end of the day you have an uphill hike, but whatever. We are on a cut across trail. This isn't our trail, but it gets us down there to the creek where we do have to work. But it is steep and switchbacky, and I keep thinking this will be pretty close to the last switchback, but they aren't, and so I'm starting to get a little sweat up, so I slow my pace a little. Going downhill, that's pretty bad. So off track a little. Here's a good case in point about the government not providing enough information to provide a authentic quote. They told me access into what I call Camp 3 was good access, which it wasn't. I had to cut trees out of the road to get in there and do some other stuff. They told me that access down to our trail, which was 2 miles down the mountain, was good as well, which was the opposite of that. The switchbacks were crazy steep. I don't even know what they were thinking. Like in some of those areas, a couple of those switchbacks, like I ran into some guys back there. There was an older dude. He was the last of the group, and he was on his bike, and he came through, and we got to chatting. And I said, "Yeah, man, like we're not very good riders. We're, we're just kind of working our way through here, tooling through here slowly and safely." And he's like, he looks at me and he goes, "Brother, if you are here and you got here on a motorcycle, you are an excellent rider." So that gave us the confidence we kind of needed. Like it came at such the right time because it gave me the confidence to lead Quinn and Luke for a little while down into an area that we might as well been on the moon. Mileage wise, we weren't a long ways from our vehicles. We were probably only 7 miles at most, but it was a treacherous 7 miles. And to say most days, riding into the work area where we would start work was as much work as working the trail all day. There were days that it would be like an hour and a half, 2-hour ride to the work site. We'd work for an hour and a half, 2 hours, have lunch, work for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then head back to camp. And we would be back to camp by 3:30 or 4. I mean, it was like the production sucked, but man, as long as everyone came back to camp safe at the end of the day, yeah, that was my concern. Production was whatever it ended up being. As long as my guys were safe and I was safe at the end of the day and not hurt, and that was all that mattered, really. And I know that probably sounds cliche, but do something like this. Whew, a little emotional there. The fact is, you just can't maintain that level of physical activity for 7 or 8 hours straight. You just can't. Yeah, I just can't. And my guys were 23, 24, 25. And you can tell from some of the videos they're just spent, and it is like basically 8 hours of working out constantly with a lunch break for 30 minutes. But after that, it's the work day. You are huffing and puffing. That's just how it is. Tasks and specifications, and then you kind of match your tasks to meet what those specifications are. So, sorry, I'm just trying not to fall on my ass. How do I explain it? Basically, imagine a hallway that is 24 inches off the ground. So by a hallway, I mean like a square rectangular thing that you go through. 24 inches off the ground. It's 10 feet wide. It's 8 feet tall. Okay, underneath that hallway is a 24 by 24 hallway that holds it up. That's the tread hallway. So there's different specs. So 24-inch tread, which not going to happen on the whole thing. 4-inch rock, 4-inch thick, over a 1/2 inch diameter. And then reestablish trail tread where there's ruts and things like that, which we did, no problem. It wasn't. Also, in that 24 by 24 hallway on the bottom, any trees with a DBH of 6 diameter breast height, this is DBH, of 6 inches or greater needed to be removed. The top hallway specifications were basically 10 by 8 box going through the woods. However, in order to do that, this is where the changes in the specifications come in. You're actually going to have to walk 20 feet off the trail sometimes to get that clearance, because in those creek bottoms, you know, it's wet, you got a lot of willows, a lot of overhanging things, and anything that's got space, everything goes to because it wants sunlight. So if there's a trail going through, every vegetation thing along that corridor is trying to grow to the center of the trail. So you have trees and stuff that's 20, 30 feet off the trail that is trying to find sunlight. And so, yeah, you don't just have a 10-foot wide corridor, you have a 20-foot wide corridor that you have to account for, because you will be spending a lot of time. In a case like this, you could spend a lot of time in the, you know, way outside of specs, but.
Jenkins Crossing, bit of a noxious weed situation. We have to clear back to, I'm gonna say about a quarter mile up this ridge. Thing is sopping wet again. I mean soaking wet. We're stopping to wait for the boys here. They're on their way, so I can hear this chainsaws. Man, and I'm about, according to GPS, like 250 feet from where I stopped 2 weeks ago. So we'll see. These guys are riding through.
Having a great time.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, heck yeah, guys. Yeah, awesome job.
All right.
So to do this, we needed the right tools, obviously. And after scouting it a couple times, I had a very good idea of what it was going to take to get it done. Luckily, I had pretty much everything other than brush saws. I didn't have the bikes, but really count those as extra because I would sell those after the contract. So brush saws were great. And I could take, you know, I could take as big a tree as I wanted. About a 1-inch tree seemed to be about the best size for those brush saws, 1 inch and smaller. And then I just left the others. I would delimb them so they could get down in there and cut them easy and quick. Because, you know, if you've ever cut trees, there's certain trees that know they're getting cut, and they turn from nice to not nice in a hurry. And spruce are one of those. So if you walk up to a spruce tree and you brush the needles on it, they'll be nice and soft and maybe feel a little silky and oily. Break a branch off of that tree and wait about 10 seconds and do the same thing, and that tree will bite your hand. The trees know, and I didn't, you know, I've spent hours with my face buried in spruce boughs, and it sucks. So I just trying to make the guy's life a little easier, and also it helped mark the trees that I wanted them to take. So I had my one saw breakdown, and then we had some visitors. I'm not sure what to say about this other than I'm hoping the new administration, this will change with the new administration. 3 Forest Service employees and a service dog were needed to do the inspection on what was about a mile of trail. Although I will say the guys that did 2 Forest Service guys that you see in this video, they did inspect, and there was another guy, and they were awesome. And they did inspect the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles from the top of French Creek down. And then these 3 folks showed up, and the dog showed up, which is nice. I love dogs. During the inspection, I got an earful from one of the inspectors and what her expectations were versus what the contract specifications were. And so this is where what are the specifications actually, that's kind of where this comes in. You could call spec on anything, really. Honestly, you could call spec on it. I didn't really ignore her as the other two looked on with embarrassed eyes and like kicking rocks. I think she probably just knew that I was probably not going to do what she said. She wanted me to use pruners on all the branches that were in the limits instead of sawing them off with our chainsaws or brush saws. To do that would require hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's an understanding that, okay, for what's awarded, like we're not going to be held exactly to spec. We're going to get this cleared so people can use it, but it's, you know, it's not going to be perfect. Also, she wanted us, when we cleared our brush, she wanted the cut side out of the brush. She wanted the cut side pointed out away from the trail so you couldn't see the cut side. Okay, well, I get that. It's probably what the specification says. However, it's not natural looking, number one. Number two, by next spring, this brush is going to be twigs on the ground, just like the rest of the forest. I don't think anyone's going to question which side of the twig is pointing out. Okay, number two, this is not my first trails contract. So I know that if you leave the cut end out of a tree pointed out, that the trail inspector will notice that, and they will notice how much work you've done. And so they will make more of a human decision when it comes to inspecting the trails. There is a certain percentage, forestry, there is a percentage that is usually accounted for in a contract, usually between 5 and 15% of work that didn't get done but will be paid for, just because it's, if you do forestry work, you know, you're like, how did we miss that? How does that get missed? But it happens. It happens. You miss things, and it's just almost impossible on, you know, 300 or 400 acres, or on you know, this 34 miles of trail. The third thing is, if you don't know what you had to begin with, how do you know what's been done in forestry? We're literally in the forest. There's trees everywhere. How do you know how do you know now what's been done if you didn't see it to begin with? So at that point, I've stopped work to listen to you. I'm sweating and breathing like a racehorse. I'm behind schedule because of you lying bastards. My guys are standing around looking at me like, does she have authority over us? And you want to see pruned branch stubs. Okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. But what I'm going to do for the government for $47,000 is I'm going to cut a hole through the woods that will allow you to be offended by the cut branch stub ends and the trees that aren't thrown off the way you want.
I wish I had pictures of all this, but I don't. It's getting warm, so we're gonna call it a day.
In the next episode, Quinn and I are faced yet once again with some challenging decisions with these last 8 miles of trail up on the ridge. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about the human business side of federal contract. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next week.